You're out. The security guard's command shattered the calm of the gleaming lobby, a cold decree that would soon unravel a secret linking his very bloodline to the building itself. Before diving into this gripping tale, let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch more inspiring stories like this one. Michael woke up before dawn, the cool air of the city wrapping around him like a gentle reminder of another day at work. Every morning, he followed the same quiet routine as he made his way to the building where he had spent years standing guard. The tall structure, with its gleaming glass facade and polished marble lobby, stood as a silent sentinel in a busy urban landscape. Outside, the city stirred slowly to life. Soft chatter, the distant rumble of early traffic, and the mixed aroma of fresh bread from a nearby bakery all set the stage for what Michael believed would be an ordinary day. As he entered through the revolving doors, the interior of the building enveloped him with a unique blend of modern design and hints of old-world charm. The lobby was bathed in a warm, golden light that filtered through large windows. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the subtle fragrance of polished wood and faint traces of something antique, as if the building itself had secrets to share. Michael's boots echoed against the marble floor as he made his way to the station, every step measured and purposeful. Michael, a dedicated security guard with a calm exterior, had always taken pride in his work. His eyes, sharp and observant, missed little as he greeted the early visitors. He had learned long ago that every face carried its own story, every quiet moment its own mystery. Today, however, something felt different. There was a charge in the air, a tension that whispered of change and of hidden truths that lay just beneath the surface of everyday routine. Across the lobby, as if drawn by fate, Jamal entered. Jamal, a man with deep-set, thoughtful eyes and a dignified manner, carried himself with a quiet confidence that set him apart. His presence, marked by a subtle defiance and an aura of unspoken resilience, immediately caught Michael's attention. With a polite nod, Michael offered his customary greeting, "Good morning, sir. May I help you?" Jamal's response was calm and measured. "Good morning. I'm here for an appointment." His voice was soft but firm, carrying hints of a story far more complex than a mere visit. While Jamal moved toward the reception desk, his steps purposeful yet measured, Michael's senses picked up the myriad details of the moment. He noticed the way the soft morning light danced across Jamal's face, the glimmer of determination in his eyes, and even the faint sound of his steady breathing. To Michael, who had always prided himself on his ability to sense the undercurrents of human behavior, something about Jamal felt both familiar and strangely out of place. In the background, Lisa, the receptionist with a warm smile and a spark of kindness in her eyes, greeted Jamal. "Welcome, sir. Please have a seat. We'll be with you shortly," she said. Her voice, gentle and reassuring, contrasted with the undercurrent of tension Michael felt. As Jamal settled into the waiting area, his gaze wandered over the intricate patterns on the polished floor and the elegant interplay of light and shadow that gave the lobby its mysterious charm. Michael resumed his duties with a practiced calm, yet his mind could not shake the impression Jamal had left on him. There was an unexplainable quality to the man, a subtle intensity that made Michael wonder if this was no ordinary appointment. His thoughts drifted back to his own life. He had always accepted his role without question, unaware that his destiny might be intertwined with the very building he guarded. Deep inside, a small, persistent curiosity stirred. Michael remembered fragments of whispered conversations from his childhood, vague hints about a legacy, about a family history that was cloaked in mystery and secrecy. But such thoughts were quickly buried under the weight of daily routine. Outside the lobby, the building itself seemed to breathe with history. Faded photographs in ornate frames lined the corridors, each image capturing moments of joy, sorrow, and quiet pride. The air held the faint echo of past conversations and long-forgotten secrets, as if the walls were steeped in memories waiting to be rediscovered. In one quiet corner of the corridor, Michael's eyes fell upon an old ledger, its yellowed pages and delicate script hinting at a time when the building's story was still being written. Though he didn't understand its significance yet, the ledger stirred something deep within him, a sense that every detail, no matter how small, held a clue to a greater truth. As the morning unfolded, subtle events began to pile up. A nearby newspaper stand displayed a headline that caught Michael's eye. Legacy uncovered, the secret of the building's ownership. The words leapt out at him, resonating with a part of his memory he had long tried to forget. Michael's heart skipped a beat, and he felt a flicker of disquiet. He had always been told that he was simply an employee hired to maintain order. Yet, in that moment, a question took root. Could it be that his connection to this building was deeper than he had ever imagined? The building's ambience shifted gradually. The hum of the air conditioning mingled with the low murmur of conversations, while the occasional creak of the old structure served as a reminder of its long past. Michael's senses were on high alert, each sound and smell contributing to an atmosphere of quiet foreboding. He exchanged brief greetings with Robert, the maintenance supervisor, a man whose observant eyes rarely missed a detail. Robert's calm, yet knowing nod added another layer to the day's unfolding mystery, as if he, too, was aware that the routine was about to be disrupted. During a short break, Michael retreated to a secluded bench in a corner of the lobby. With a steaming cup of tea warming his hands, he sat silently and let the world around him seep in. The tea's rich aroma mingled with the lingering notes of the building's history, a scent that carried hints of old wood and hidden memories. As he sipped, Michael's thoughts wandered back to the stories his parents had once shared about loyalty and betrayal, about family secrets that could change everything if revealed. He remembered a particular tale of a hidden inheritance and secret alliances that had once stirred the hearts of those who dared to dream of a better future. At the time, those stories had seemed like mere legends, but now they took on a more personal tone. The day's routine resumed, yet Michael could not dismiss the feeling that every moment was charged with possibility. Jamal, too, appeared to be caught in his own world of reflections. As he waited, Jamal's eyes roamed over the lobby's elegant details, as if he was seeking answers in the play of light and shadows. There was a quiet strength in the way he observed his surroundings, a strength that belied the hardship he might have endured. Michael, watching from a distance, sensed that Jamal's calm was the result of inner battles fought long ago, battles that had left invisible scars. A subtle exchange between Lisa and Jamal further deepened the mystery. At one point, as Lisa brought Jamal a glass of water, their brief conversation carried an undercurrent of tension. "Are you sure everything is all right, sir?" Lisa asked softly. Jamal's smile was polite, but distant. "Yes, thank you. I have my own reasons to be here," he replied, his tone carrying a hint of guarded determination. The words left Lisa with a lingering question, and Michael, overhearing the exchange, felt that the day was already steering towards unforeseen directions. Michael's own mind was a battleground of duty and dawning realization. The ledger he had seen earlier, the newspaper headline, and the unexplained pull he felt toward Jamal, all these pieces began to form a puzzle that defied simple explanation. There was an undercurrent of betrayal hidden in the routine, a hint that loyalty could be as fragile as the delicate patterns on the lobby floor. Michael had always trusted the order of things, but now he wondered if the order was nothing more than a carefully maintained illusion. The building itself seemed to whisper of the past as Michael walked the corridors, each step echoing memories of forgotten times. In one quiet passageway, he paused before an old portrait hanging on the wall, a portrait of a man whose eyes sparkled with ambition and whose smile hinted at hidden depths. Michael could not help but feel a strange kinship with that figure, as if the man in the portrait had once walked the same path he now trod without knowing the full truth of his own heritage. As the early afternoon light filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows that danced on the walls, Michael's thoughts grew heavier. He recalled dreams he had long suppressed, dreams in which a mysterious figure would whisper secrets of a legacy that had been hidden from him. In those dreams, the building was not just a place of work, but a living entity with a past that was intricately linked to his own life. Each time the dream ended, Michael woke with a lingering sense of loss and curiosity, as if a vital piece of himself had been left behind in the realm of forgotten history. The day wore on, and the steady rhythm of routine continued, yet every interaction, every sound, every scent now carried the weight of possibility. Michael found himself paying attention to details he had once ignored: a soft murmur in a distant room, the flicker of a light in a shadowed corner, the hushed exchange of words between strangers. All these small details, like fragments of a larger mosaic, hinted at a narrative that was far more complex than the daily grind of a security guard's life. As the afternoon deepened into a calm lull, Michael's internal struggle grew. He was caught between the safety of routine and the magnetic pull of mystery. His thoughts wandered to his family, names and faces that were spoken of in reverent whispers during his childhood. Though he had never learned the full story, there was always an unspoken understanding that his bloodline carried a legacy, a secret that might one day unravel the very fabric of his existence. The very building he guarded now seemed to stand as a monument to that legacy, its walls holding silent testimony to a past he was only beginning to sense. In a quiet moment, while checking the security monitors, Michael's eyes caught a flicker of movement on one of the screens. It was Jamal, now engaged in a quiet conversation with Mr. Anderson, the building manager known for his strict adherence to protocols and his reserved demeanor. Mr. Anderson's eyes were sharp and unyielding, and his words, though few, carried an air of authority that made even Michael pause in respect. The brief exchange between Jamal and Mr. Anderson left Michael with more questions than answers. There was an unspoken tension in the air, a tension that spoke of hidden connections and unresolved histories. Later, as the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Michael took one last round of the building. The lobby, bathed in the soft glow of twilight, now looked like a stage set for secrets to be revealed. The once familiar sounds of footsteps and low conversations took on a dreamlike quality, as if the building itself was preparing for a revelation that would shake its very foundations. Michael's mind raced with the day's events, the subtle hints, the unexplained feelings, and the strange sense of inevitability that seemed to linger in every corner. He paused by the old ledger again, its presence now more commanding than ever. Running his fingers gently over the worn cover, he wondered if the answers to his unspoken questions lay within its pages. Though he did not fully understand the significance of the ledger, it felt as if it held the key to a mystery that was both personal and profound. The idea that his life, his work, and perhaps even his identity were intertwined with the building's hidden past began to take root in his mind, stirring a mixture of fear and anticipation. Michael's thoughts drifted back to Jamal, the man whose quiet determination had ignited a spark of curiosity in him. What was it about Jamal that made him seem so familiar, yet so enigmatic? Was there a connection between this stranger and the secrets that had haunted Michael since childhood? The questions multiplied, echoing through the corridors of his mind like the soft reverberations of footsteps on marble. As the day finally gave way to night, Michael stepped outside the building for a brief moment. The cool night air was filled with the sounds of distant traffic and the murmurs of a city that never truly slept. Standing under the glow of a street lamp, he allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. The building behind him loomed large, its windows dark and reflective, as if guarding secrets meant only for those who dared to uncover them. In that silent pause, Michael made a quiet promise to himself. He would seek out the truth behind the whispers of the past, no matter how deeply it was hidden. The gentle hum of the city and the quiet rustling of leaves in the cool breeze were a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts inside him. He recalled his mother's soft voice from years ago, speaking of honor, duty, and the mysteries that sometimes lay hidden in the most familiar places. Those words, though distant in time, resonated now with a profound clarity. Michael wondered if, one day, the full story of his family's connection to the building would be revealed, a revelation that might change everything he believed about his own life. As he walked back to his post under the quiet stars, Michael felt both a sense of duty and a growing curiosity. The day had been ordinary in many respects, yet every moment was now imbued with the promise of change. The memories of the old ledger, the cryptic newspaper headline, and the piercing eyes of Jamal all merged into a single silent question. What hidden truths lay behind the facade of order and routine? In that reflective silence, Michael accepted that his life was on the verge of a transformation. The building, with all its elegant surfaces and quiet corridors, had become more than a workplace. It was a living tapestry of secrets, betrayal, and legacy. With each step, he carried the weight of an unseen past, and with every breath, he felt the pull of a future that promised to upend the familiar order. Unbeknownst to him, the day's events had already set in motion a chain of events that would soon lead to revelations beyond his wildest imaginings. The careful balance of duty and hidden desire, of trust and suspicion, had been disturbed. As the night deepened and the building stood silent in the moonlight, Michael's heart beat with quiet determination. The mysteries of the day were only the beginning, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, was destined to come to light. In the soft, fading echoes of that evening, as Michael resumed his watchful vigil and the building settled into its nocturnal rhythm, he held on to one unshakable conviction: that every secret, every hidden story, was waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And though he could not yet see the full picture, Michael felt in his soul that the day's events were only the first steps on a journey that would change his life forever. Michael's day took a sudden, unsettling turn shortly after the quiet morning had given way to routine. As the building buzzed with the murmur of daily activity, an urgent announcement over the security intercom disrupted the gentle hum of the afternoon. Michael's heart pounded as he listened to the terse instructions. A complaint had been lodged about Jamal's presence, and he was now being accused of causing a disturbance in the lobby. Michael felt a cold, knot of dread form in his stomach. The steady, measured man who had guarded the building for years now found himself caught in a storm of conflicting orders and uneasy emotions. Later that afternoon, Michael found himself standing in front of Jamal once more. The lobby, once bathed in the soft glow of morning, now carried an undercurrent of tension, its warm light tinged with an eerie coolness as if warning of impending conflict. Michael's voice, usually calm and measured, trembled slightly as he addressed Jamal. "Sir, I'm afraid I must ask you to leave the premises. There have been reports that you have violated our building protocols." His words echoed against the polished marble floor, each syllable weighted with uncertainty. Jamal's eyes flashed with a mixture of confusion and hurt as he took a careful step forward. "I don't understand," he replied softly. "I have done nothing wrong. I came here for an appointment and waited patiently." His tone, though polite, carried an undercurrent of defiance, a quiet refusal to be cast aside without explanation. Michael hesitated, his internal conflict deepening. The vague instructions he had received left little room for personal interpretation, yet as he looked into Jamal's steady gaze, doubts began to creep in. Over the next few tense minutes, a hushed conversation unfolded between them. Michael's duty warred with his growing intuition that something was amiss. Jamal, maintaining his calm, repeated his purpose for being there, emphasizing that his actions were innocent and that he was merely following orders of his own schedule. Michael, torn between obedience and his own emerging moral compass, felt every moment stretch into an eternity. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken questions. Had he made the right call? Was this truly a breach of protocol, or was there an ulterior motive behind the abrupt decision? Outside the immediate confrontation, the building itself seemed to whisper secrets. Michael's eyes wandered, even as he struggled with his own decision. He recalled fragments of conversations from earlier, snatches of dialogue between Mr. Anderson, the stoic building manager, and Robert, the quietly observant maintenance supervisor. Their glances, the subtle tension in their voices, all hinted at layers of intrigue hidden beneath the facade of everyday work. At the same time, Lisa's concerned look as she passed by seemed to silently plead for understanding, as though she too sensed that something was deeply wrong with the unfolding situation. Unable to ignore the rising tide of emotion any longer, Michael's mind churned with memories of whispered family lore and ancient secrets. In the quiet recesses of his thoughts, he remembered stories from his childhood. Stories of honor, legacy, and betrayal that had been shared in hushed tones around a flickering lamp. These recollections, once thought to be mere fables, now surged forward with painful clarity. They spoke of a hidden heritage and of family ties so intricate that even the simplest duty might mask a legacy of power and deception. As the conversation with Jamal escalated, Mr. Anderson arrived on the scene. His presence was as imposing as ever, a man whose reputation for uncompromising authority was well known. In a measured, almost detached tone, Mr. Anderson interjected, "Michael, follow the protocol. This matter must be resolved swiftly." His eyes, cold and calculating, did not betray a hint of empathy. To Michael, Mr. Anderson's intervention felt like a sudden, forceful gust of wind, scattering the fragile threads of his emerging doubts. "What protocol?" Michael asked, his voice wavering as he fought to keep his emotions in check. "I don't recall any rule that would justify ejecting someone for simply waiting." The question hung in the air, charged with a mix of frustration and sorrow. Jamal, standing silently beside him, only offered a quiet, "I wish I understood," as if sharing Michael's sense of injustice. Before Michael could protest further, a stern directive came over the intercom, urging him to take immediate action. With his heart pounding and his hands trembling slightly, Michael made the painful decision to follow orders. In one swift, conflicted motion, he escorted Jamal out of the building. The moment was both abrupt and shattering, a collision of duty and empathy that left both men reeling. Jamal's eyes, wide with disbelief and hurt, locked with Michael's for a brief, agonizing second before he turned away, stepping out into the cool, indifferent evening. As the heavy door closed behind Jamal, Michael was left alone in the lobby with the weight of his decision pressing down on him. His mind raced with what-ifs and regrets. What if he had listened to that quiet inner voice instead of following orders? What if this act of exclusion was not just a breach of protocol, but a betrayal of the values he held dear? With every passing second, the quiet hum of the building's routine seemed to mock him, as if reminding him that the world rarely offered simple answers. In the hours that followed, the building's corridors took on an even more ominous character. The afternoon light faded into dusk, and shadows stretched long and dark along the polished floors. Michael found himself drawn back to the old ledger he had noticed earlier, a worn, leather-bound volume with yellowed pages that chronicled the building's long, secretive history. With trembling hands, he opened it, scanning the faded script and intricate calligraphy that spoke of generations past. Among the entries, he discovered a series of names and dates that stirred a deep, almost primal recognition within him. There, in the careful penmanship of a long-forgotten scribe, was the unmistakable signature of his own family, a detail he had never known before. The revelation sent a shockwave through Michael's heart. His family, the same family whose stories he had grown up hearing in gentle whispers, had once played a significant role in the history of this building. The implications were staggering. Was it possible that the very place he had dedicated his life to guarding was part of a legacy he had always taken for granted? His thoughts churned with conflicting emotions, pride, disbelief, anger, and betrayal all mingled together in a volatile cocktail that threatened to overwhelm him. In a moment of desperate clarity, Michael remembered the subtle clues from earlier that day. The strange glances exchanged between Mr. Anderson and Robert, the hushed tones of Lisa's concerned whispers, and the quiet intensity in Jamal's eyes. Everything now seemed connected, as if a hidden narrative had been unfolding all along, one that implicated not only the mysterious origins of the building, but also his own actions in ejecting Jamal. The knowledge that his family's name was entwined with the building's history made him question everything he had ever known. How could he have been so blind? And what role did Jamal play in this tangled web of secrets? That evening, unable to sleep, Michael wandered through the building's dim corridors. The soft glow of emergency lights and the distant hum of the night provided an eerie soundtrack to his inner turmoil. Every creak of the old floorboards and every rustle of paper in the ledger echoed like a reminder of the betrayal he now felt, not only towards Jamal, who had been cast out without a fair chance, but also towards himself for blindly following orders. He replayed the moment of Jamal's ejection over and over in his mind, each replay intensifying the sting of regret. In a quiet, secluded room off the main corridor, Michael sat down heavily on a dusty chair. His mind swirled with memories of his childhood and the faint, haunting words of his mother, who had once spoken of honor, duty, and the painful truth that sometimes the ones we trust the most can lead us astray. Her voice, soft and full of sorrow, echoed in his ears as he clutched a faded photograph he had found tucked between the ledger's pages, a photograph that showed a young man, whose eyes mirrored Michael's own, standing proudly in front of the building many years ago. The image was a silent testament to a legacy that Michael had only just begun to comprehend. Questions flooded his thoughts. Was his family's ownership of the building a hidden treasure meant to empower him, or was it a curse, a heavy burden of responsibility and past mistakes waiting to be uncovered? The weight of these questions pressed upon him as he struggled to reconcile his role as a security guard with the emerging realization that he was part of something much larger than himself. As Michael sat in that dimly lit room, the building's quiet secrets whispered around him. The air was thick with the scent of old paper, dust, and something indefinable, a mixture of hope and despair. He reached out to the ledger. Once more, his fingers tracing the faded ink as if seeking answers from the ghosts of the past. The more he read, the more he began to understand that the building was not merely a structure of glass and stone, but a living archive of the dreams, betrayals, and ambitions of those who had come before him. And at the heart of it all was his own family, their legacy hidden in plain sight for reasons he could not yet fathom. Meanwhile, beyond the quiet introspection of Michael's internal battle, the building's daytime bustle had given way to a more secretive nocturnal rhythm. In a small office behind the reception area, Lisa sat at her desk, her eyes scanning through a series of documents that she had secretly gathered over the past few weeks. She had long suspected that something was off about the building's management and its shadowy past. Now, with Michael's recent discovery, her suspicions were confirmed. Carefully, she placed the documents in a neat stack, knowing that these papers contained evidence of a conspiracy that reached deep into the building's very foundations, a conspiracy that implicated figures of power and betrayal, including, it seemed, Michael's own kin. At the same time, Mr. Anderson had retreated to his private office on the top floor, where the panoramic view of the city did little to ease the storm of his thoughts. His face, usually so impassive and authoritative, was now etched with lines of worry. He knew that the delicate balance of control he had maintained over the building was on the verge of collapse. Michael's growing doubts, the uncovered ledger entries, and the unresolved tension with Jamal had all contributed to a scenario that could no longer be contained by a few curt orders. Mr. Anderson picked up his phone and made a call in hushed tones, his words barely audible over the static line. "It's happening sooner than expected," he murmured, as if speaking to an old ally who understood the gravity of the situation. "We must be prepared for the fallout." In the midst of these unfolding machinations, Robert, the maintenance supervisor, moved quietly through the corridors. His normally unremarkable duties had taken on a new significance. He had been privy to conversations and confidential memos that hinted at a long-standing feud between the building's current management and an enigmatic family legacy. Robert's keen eyes had noticed Michael's increasing agitation and the furtive glances exchanged between Mr. Anderson and Lisa. Though he rarely spoke his mind, inside he harbored a growing resolve to see the truth revealed, even if it meant shattering the carefully constructed illusion of order. As night deepened and the building's corridors fell into a subdued silence, Michael's inner turmoil reached a fever pitch. Unable to shake the feeling that he had wronged someone far greater than a mere customer, he retraced his steps to the lobby where the incident had taken place. The space, now eerily quiet, held the remnants of earlier conversations, A stray word here, a half-remembered smile there, and all of it coalesced into a painful mosaic of regret and responsibility. In a moment of clarity, Michael recalled a passage from an old family journal he had once glimpsed in his childhood. It spoke of honor, betrayal, and the heavy cost of loyalty. What would you do in a moment of betrayal? He wondered aloud, his voice barely more than a whisper. The question hung in the air, inviting the silent witness of the night to ponder its meaning. It was a question that challenged not only his actions, but the very foundation of the legacy he was beginning to understand. The answer, he realized, was as elusive as the secrets hidden in the ledger and as painful as the memory of Jamal's disappointed eyes. The next day, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Michael resolved to seek out the truth no matter the cost. With the newfound knowledge of his family's deep connection to the building weighing on him, he felt a mixture of determination and dread. His duty, once a simple matter of following orders, had become a quest for redemption, a journey to reconcile the past with the present and to uncover the hidden truths that lay buried beneath layers of betrayal. In the early hours of that morning, Michael quietly approached Lisa at the reception desk. Her eyes, still filled with the warmth and concern from the previous day, met his with a silent understanding. "Lisa," he began hesitantly, "I found something in the ledger, a reference to my family. I never knew. I mean, how could this be?" His voice trembled as he spoke the words, each syllable heavy with disbelief and regret. Lisa's response was gentle, but laced with urgency. "I've been looking into this for a while, Michael. There are records hidden among these documents that tie your family to the building's founding. It seems your lineage was far more involved than you were ever told." Her eyes shone with both compassion and a steely resolve. "You must know, there are those who would go to great lengths to keep this secret hidden. What happened with Jamal, it may not have been a coincidence." Michael's breath caught in his throat. The idea that his actions toward Jamal might have been manipulated by forces beyond his control was almost too much to bear. "So, everything I thought I knew," he whispered, "was a lie?" His mind raced as he recalled the faint whispers from Mr. Anderson and the conflicted looks shared by Robert. Was I set up? Was I used as a pawn in a game that I never even knew existed? Lisa's hand reached out to rest on his arm, offering both comfort and a subtle reminder of the importance of truth. Sometimes, the path to redemption starts with a painful truth. You need to find out who really benefits from this secret and why. Her words were both a comfort and a challenge, urging him to look beyond the surface of duty and question the intentions of those in power. As the day unfolded, Michael's internal battle grew more intense. The building, with its familiar yet now ominous corridors, became a labyrinth of memories and hidden clues. Every face he passed, every hushed conversation, and every lingering glance seemed to carry a message, a warning of what was to come. The tension in the air was palpable, a silent promise that the building's secrets would soon burst forth into the light. In a quiet moment during a break, Michael stepped outside onto the building's small terrace. The city spread out before him, alive with the promise of a new day, yet he felt trapped in a web of past mistakes and future uncertainties. The cool morning breeze stirred his thoughts as he stared at the horizon. What would you do if you discovered that the very foundation of your life was built on lies? He asked the empty air, his words both a lament and a call to action. The answer, he knew, lay somewhere within the tangled threads of his family's history. With resolve hardening within him, Michael decided that he would no longer allow himself to be a passive guardian of a legacy that he barely understood. Instead, he would seek out the truth, no matter how painful or dangerous it might be. His next step was clear. He needed to confront Mr. Anderson and demand answers. Later that afternoon, in the quiet solitude of Mr. Anderson's office, Michael found himself face to face with the man who had set the day's events in motion. The office was dimly lit, the soft glow of a desk lamp highlighting the tension etched on Mr. Anderson's face. Michael's voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed the storm raging within him. "I need to know the truth about my family and this building. Why were the records hidden? Why was I ordered to eject Jamal when nothing justified it? Mr. Anderson's expression hardened. For a long moment, silence reigned as the two men locked eyes, one filled with desperate curiosity, the other with guarded secrets. Finally, Mr. Anderson spoke, his voice low and measured. "There are truths that are dangerous to reveal, Michael. Your family has been intertwined with this building for generations, a secret that was kept hidden for reasons beyond simple ownership. Sometimes, sacrifices must be made to protect a greater legacy." Michael felt a surge of anger and betrayal. Sacrifices? Is that what you call forcing an innocent man out just to maintain your control? His words were sharp, each one laced with the pain of a man who had been deceived. "I trusted you. I trusted the system, and now I see it was all built on lies." A bitter smile crossed Mr. Anderson's face. "Trust is a luxury you cannot afford when the stakes are this high. The truth, Michael, is often a burden too heavy for those who are not prepared to bear it." His tone was dismissive, yet behind his words lay a hint of regret that Michael could not decipher. In that charged moment, Michael's world shifted irreversibly. The realization that his own family's legacy was at the root of this labyrinth of secrets filled him with a tumultuous mix of pride and sorrow. The betrayal he felt was no longer solely about ejecting Jamal. It was about a lifetime of being kept in the dark, of serving a duty that was intertwined with hidden agendas and ancient grudges. Outside Mr. Anderson's office, the building seemed to groan under the weight of its secrets. Michael's thoughts swirled as he recalled the reflection of Jamal's eyes earlier that day. Eyes that now held a look of resigned understanding. Had Jamal known more than he let on? Was his seemingly calm demeanor a mask for a deeper purpose? Michael's guilt over his actions grew with every unanswered question. He began to see Jamal not as a troublemaker, but as a key to unlocking the true nature of the betrayal that had haunted him all these years. In the quiet moments that followed, Michael's determination hardened. He resolved that he would set things right, even if it meant facing the darkness within his own past. The memory of that painful encounter with Jamal and the subsequent revelation of his family's hidden legacy spurred him to seek out every scrap of evidence that could unravel the conspiracy. Every shadowy corner of the building, every cryptic note in the ledger, and every hushed conversation would be re-examined with fresh eyes. "If I don't do this," he thought, "then who will?" His internal monologue, filled with raw emotion and desperate resolve, echoed through the silent halls. The next few days unfolded as a blur of covert investigations and quiet confrontations. Michael began to discreetly search through old records in the building's archives, a section of the building that had long been neglected, filled with dusty boxes and faded documents. The air in the archive was thick with the musty scent of history and decay. With each new piece of paper he uncovered, Michael felt as though he was peeling away layers of a carefully constructed facade. He found letters, contracts, and even personal diaries that hinted at alliances and betrayals spanning decades. One particular diary, its cover cracked and worn, recounted the founding of the building and mentioned names that sent shivers down Michael's spine. The names of his own ancestors, intertwined with the destiny of the edifice. As he pored over the fragile pages, Michael's mind raced with possibilities. The more he read, the more he understood that the building was a living entity shaped by the ambitions, secrets, and failures of those who had walked its halls before him. It was no longer just a workplace or a monument to modern achievement. It was a repository of human frailty and resilience, a testament to the choices made in the shadows. And now, that same building was calling him to confront a past he had long tried to forget. The conflict within Michael reached a crescendo during one late evening when he unexpectedly encountered Jamal outside the building. The night was cool and quiet, the stars hidden behind a veil of clouds as if reluctant to witness the unfolding drama. Jamal stood by the entrance, his posture both defensive and resigned. Michael's heart clenched at the sight. "Jamal," he called softly, "I'm sorry for what happened earlier." "I didn't know," but Jamal raised his hand to stop him, his eyes a mirror of complex emotions. "You followed orders," Jamal replied evenly, his voice carrying a deep-seated sadness. "I never meant to cause trouble." I came here to find answers about my own past, answers that I believed this building held. But instead, I was treated as an intruder. His words were measured, each one laced with the pain of a man who had been wronged by a system built on hidden agendas. Michael felt a lump form in his throat as he absorbed Jamal's quiet accusation. The two men stood there in the dim light, caught between their separate quests for truth. In that charged silence, Michael dared to ask, "What truth are you looking for?" Jamal's gaze dropped for a moment before he spoke. "I'm searching for the identity of my family, for a connection that has eluded me for too long, and I believe that this building, with all its secrets, might hold the key." His confession was simple, yet it carried the weight of years spent wandering in search of belonging. The revelation struck Michael with the force of a tidal wave. In ejecting Jamal, he had not only harmed an innocent man, but perhaps also severed the only link to a truth that might redeem them both. The betrayal, he realized, was not one-sided. It was woven into the very fabric of the building's history, infecting every decision and every hidden motive. What would you do if you discovered that the person you wronged held the key to your own salvation? Michael asked himself, the reflective question echoing in the quiet night air. Their conversation lingered in the space between them, a fragile bridge spanning the chasm of misunderstanding and regret. In that moment, Michael vowed to make amends. He extended an invitation to Jamal, a tentative offer of collaboration. "Let us find the truth together," he said quietly, his eyes earnest. "Maybe in uncovering your past, we can both understand the legacy that binds us to this place." Jamal's expression softened, the guarded lines on his face easing into a hint of cautious hope. "I want that too," he replied simply. And so, in the cool darkness of that night, the two men, once divided by duty and prejudice, formed an unlikely alliance. Their journey, however, was fraught with danger and deception. As they began to piece together the fragments of the building's storied past, every discovery revealed deeper layers of conflict. Documents hinted at a long-forgotten feud between powerful families, and secret meetings recounted in faded ink on brittle paper suggested that the building had been a battleground for loyalty and betrayal long before either man had set foot inside. In the days that followed, Michael and Jamal worked together in secret. Their meetings were hushed, held in the dim glow of abandoned rooms and silent stairwells. Each new clue brought with it more questions than answers. They uncovered evidence that suggested the building had been a silent witness to a dark conspiracy, a power struggle that had manipulated lives and dictated fates. And at the heart of it all was the legacy of Michael's family, a legacy that had been shrouded in mystery and deceit. As Michael sifted through the remnants of the past, he began to notice how the building itself seemed to react to their discoveries. The once familiar corridors now whispered secrets in every creak and rustle. Even the soft hum of the air conditioning took on an ominous tone, as if the structure was alive and aware of the truths being unearthed within its walls. Every reflective surface, every shadow cast by the flickering lights, became a silent witness to the mounting revelations. The tension reached its peak one stormy evening when a fierce downpour battered the city. Thunder rolled across the darkened sky, and lightning illuminated the building in harsh, fleeting bursts. Michael and Jamal had arranged to meet in the archives once more, determined to confront a final piece of evidence, a collection of old blueprints and personal letters that might reveal the full extent of the conspiracy. As they pored over the documents by the light of a single sputtering lamp, the storm outside seemed to echo the tumult within. Michael's hands trembled as he unfolded a yellowed letter, its ink blurred by the passage of time. The letter was addressed to a man he recognized from a faded photograph, a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to him, yet whose eyes held a secret sorrow. The letter spoke of honor betrayed and of a promise to reclaim what was lost, hinting at a hidden inheritance that would one day return to the rightful family. With each word, Michael felt the past converging with his present, binding him to a destiny that was both awe-inspiring and deeply painful. Jamal, watching Michael's reaction with a mixture of compassion and resolve, broke the silence. "Do you see now? Our lives, your legacy, my search, they're all part of something much bigger than we ever imagined. His voice was low, carrying a weight of understanding that resonated deeply with Michael. In that moment, the storm outside was no longer just a backdrop, it was a metaphor for the chaos and intensity of the truth they were beginning to face. Questions began to mount for the audience as well. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the crossroads of duty and destiny. What would you do if the person you once saw as an outsider held the key to unlocking your hidden past? Would you dare to challenge the powers that be, even if it meant risking everything you have known? The answer was not clear, even to Michael. As he held the letter close, he felt a surge of conflicting emotions: pride in his heritage, regret for past misdeeds, and a burning desire to set things right. The betrayal he felt was now intertwined with a fragile hope for redemption. He knew that the journey ahead would be perilous, filled with challenges that would test not only his strength but his very soul. Yet, with Jamal by his side and the truth slowly coming into focus, Michael felt a renewed determination to confront the dark forces that had long manipulated his life. In the weeks that followed, the building became a stage for escalating confrontations and whispered alliances. Mr. Anderson, sensing that his carefully guarded secrets were in danger of being exposed, began to tighten his grip on the situation. His curt orders grew more frequent, and his once calm demeanor took on an edge of desperation. Rumors began to circulate among the staff, and even Robert, whose quiet vigilance had always been a comfort, started to show signs of unrest. The undercurrent of betrayal was now a roaring current, threatening to engulf everyone in its wake. Michael's internal conflict deepened as he grappled with the realization that his role as a security guard was no longer a simple job. It was a crucible in which his character, his loyalties, and his sense of self were being tested. The burden of his family's hidden legacy pressed on him with every decision he made. Each step he took in the dim corridors was laden with the knowledge that he was part of a story much larger than himself, a story of power, betrayal, and the search for redemption. As the tension mounted, Michael found himself caught in a series of dangerous encounters. Late one evening, while returning from a secret meeting with Jamal, he was confronted by an unfamiliar figure in a darkened hallway. The stranger's eyes gleamed with a mix of malice and determination as he hissed, "You should not be digging into matters that do not concern you." Michael's heart raced, and for a moment, the hallway seemed to close in around him, the silence punctuated only by the stranger's warning. Michael's mind flashed with the faces of those who had trusted him, of Jamal, of his family, and of the silent promises made in the darkness of the building. With a firm voice that belied his inner fear, he replied, "I have every right to know the truth." The confrontation ended as quickly as it had begun, leaving Michael shaken and more determined than ever to uncover every hidden secret, even as danger lurked in every shadow. The final twist in this rising storm came unexpectedly. One crisp morning, as Michael returned to the building with a renewed sense of purpose, he noticed a small envelope tucked discreetly beneath his locker, a locker he had used for years without much thought. The envelope was unmarked, its paper thin and delicate. Inside, he found a letter that confirmed everything he had begun to suspect. His family had not only been deeply involved in the building's history, but they had also been secretly watching over it, protecting its legacy from those who would exploit its power. The letter revealed that Michael's lineage was entrusted with the stewardship of the building, a role of both honor and great responsibility. Yet, it also warned of the treacherous forces that had sought to destroy that legacy, forces that were now moving in the shadows to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. Reading the letter, Michael felt a whirlwind of emotions. Relief at finally understanding his place in the grand tapestry of the building's history, anger at the betrayal he had suffered at the hands of those he had once trusted, and a profound sorrow for the man he had wronged, Jamal. The realization that his actions had been manipulated by hidden agendas was a bitter pill to swallow. In that moment, Michael knew that he had to make a choice to continue following orders blindly or to embrace the truth of his heritage and fight for what was right. With the letter clutched tightly in his hand, Michael stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The city was awakening once again, its streets filled with the promise of a new day. As he gazed upward, a single thought echoed in his mind, reflective, haunting question directed at both himself and anyone who might share in his journey. When faced with betrayal and the weight of hidden truths, will you have the courage to stand up and rewrite your own destiny? The question lingered as Michael walked away, leaving behind the building that had been both his sanctuary and his prison. Now, armed with the truth and a newfound resolve, he was ready to face the coming storm. With Jamal's fate intertwined with his own, and with every step fraught with danger, yet illuminated by the promise of redemption, Michael began the next chapter of his journey, a journey that would challenge everything he had ever believed and force him to confront not only the treacherous past, but also the uncertain future. In that charged moment of transition, the building itself seemed to hold its breath, its silent corridors and hidden rooms waiting for the next twist in a story that was far from over. And as Michael disappeared into the early morning light, the echo of his footsteps was a promise. A promise that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, would soon rise to the surface, and that even in the face of betrayal and heartache, the search for redemption was a journey worth taking. Michael woke before dawn on the day that would change everything. The heavy night of secrets and betrayals had given way to a morning that was both crisp and filled with unspoken determination. As he stepped out of his modest apartment, the cool air carried the faint scent of rain and distant city smoke, a reminder that nothing in life remained untouched by change. Every step he took echoed with the weight of the past days, when every whisper and hidden glance had led him to confront a truth that shook his world. He reached the building with a heart pounding in his chest, its grand facade now a silent witness to his inner turmoil. The lobby, once a familiar haven of routine and quiet duty, seemed to pulse with energy as if aware that its secrets were about to be exposed. Michael paused at the revolving doors, his fingers grazing the cool metal as memories of the painful ejection of Jamal and the shocking discovery of his family's legacy swirled in his mind. Today was the day he would face the man responsible for so much hidden pain, Mr. Anderson, and perhaps the day he would finally seek redemption for the mistakes that had haunted him. Inside, the corridors were quiet and dim, illuminated by the soft glow of early morning light seeping through tall, narrow windows. Every step Michael took along the polished floors reminded him of the ledger's cryptic entries and the dusty pages that had revealed the deep connection between his bloodline and the building. The echoes of his footsteps blended with the distant hum of machinery and murmured voices, as if the building itself was preparing to speak its long-held secrets. Before long, Michael found himself standing outside Mr. Anderson's office. The heavy wooden door, adorned with a tarnished brass nameplate, looked more like a barrier than ever before. With a deep breath that steadied his resolve, Michael knocked. The sound of his knock reverberated in the stillness, a signal that the time for half-truths was over. After a long pause, the door swung open to reveal Mr. Anderson's familiar, inscrutable face. His eyes, once as cold and unyielding as steel, now held a trace of apprehension that betrayed the gravity of the situation. "Michael," he said in a measured tone that carried both authority and a hint of regret, "I knew you would come. Please step inside." Michael stepped into the office, where the soft light revealed walls lined with old photographs and mementos that chronicled the building's storied past. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and polished wood, a silent reminder that the past was never truly gone. He closed the door gently behind him, and the two men stood facing each other in a silence heavy with unspoken words. "Mr. Anderson," Michael began, his voice low but resolute, "I need to know the truth. I have uncovered so many secrets about my family, about this building, and about the reason I was ordered to eject Jamal. I must understand why everything has been hidden from me, and why I was made to follow orders that felt so wrong." Mr. Anderson's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment he seemed to wrestle with conflicting emotions. Finally he spoke, his voice steady yet laced with a quiet sorrow. There are truths, Michael, that are dangerous and painful. Your family has been intertwined with this building since its very inception, a legacy built on honor, betrayal, and the sacrifices of generations. I was ordered to protect that legacy, even if it meant taking actions that, in your eyes, may seem cruel. He paused, allowing the words to sink in. I believed that by keeping certain secrets hidden, I could preserve something greater than any one person's feelings. But perhaps I was mistaken. A charged silence filled the room as Michael absorbed those words. The betrayal he had felt, first towards Jamal, and then at the hands of those he trusted, suddenly became a vast tapestry of conflicting loyalties and hidden histories. So, you admit it, Michael said quietly, that my family's legacy, everything I thought I knew about this building, was concealed to serve a purpose beyond my understanding, and that my actions against Jamal were part of that same plan? Mr. Anderson's face hardened for a moment, then softened with regret. I did not set out to hurt you or anyone else, he said slowly. The decisions were made long ago by those who believed that the truth was too dangerous to reveal. You were simply a guardian caught in a web spun by forces far older and more complex than any one of us. The order to eject Jamal was not a personal vendetta, it was meant to keep certain events from unfolding prematurely. I see now that my actions have caused pain that cannot be undone. Michael's eyes filled with a mix of anger and sorrow. I trusted you. I trusted the system that I had served for so many years, and now I see that I was nothing more than a pawn. Jamal, the man I wronged, may hold the key to a truth that was meant to be revealed all along. How can you justify sacrificing one's dignity, one's chance for redemption, in the name of a legacy that was built on betrayal? The room seemed to grow colder as Mr. Anderson's gaze fell to the floor. There comes a time when loyalty must be questioned, when obedience gives way to the need for truth. I am sorry, Michael, for the part one played in this deception. But know this, the legacy you have inherited is not a curse. It is a call to stand up for what is right, even when the truth is painful. At that moment, a sudden noise at the door startled both men. The door swung open, and there stood Jamal, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. The air grew heavy with the unspoken history between him and Michael, a history of hurt, misunderstanding, and the possibility of forgiveness. Jamal's presence, unexpected yet somehow inevitable, cast a long shadow over the room. He spoke, his voice steady but imbued with emotion. I have come back because I could not let the past define me. I came here seeking answers about my own heritage, and now I see that our fates have been intertwined all along. Michael's heart pounded as he met Jamal's gaze. The man he had once ejected with a heavy heart now stood before him, not as an enemy, but as someone who had suffered a similar fate of deception and loss. Jamal, Michael said, his voice thick with remorse, I was wrong to send you away. I followed orders without questioning them, and in doing so, I betrayed not only you, but the very truth I was meant to protect. Jamal's eyes softened, and for a long moment, the tension in the room ebbed away into a fragile hope. I know you were caught in a system much larger than either of us, he replied, but I believe that there is still time for us to set things right, to face the truth together. Our families, our pasts, are linked by more than secrets and lies. They are bound by the desire to create something that stands for justice and unity. A heavy silence fell between them as Michael looked from Jamal to Mr. Anderson, his mind racing with the implications of their intertwined destinies. Finally, he spoke, his voice resolute. I will no longer be a pawn. I choose to face my heritage, to honor the legacy of my family by bringing light to the darkness that has held us captive for so long. Jamal, will you stand with me as we reveal the truth behind this building and expose those who have manipulated us? Jamal nodded slowly, determination lighting his eyes. Yes, Michael, I will stand by you. Together, we can rewrite this story not with secrets and betrayal, but with honesty and hope. Outside, the building seemed to exhale as though relieved that its hidden truths were finally coming to light. The three men, Michael, Jamal, and even Mr. Anderson, whose face was now etched with remorse and resolve, stood united against the forces of deception that had long haunted these halls. In that charged moment, the very air shimmered with the promise of change. The confrontation reached a fever pitch when Robert, the quiet maintenance supervisor, and Lisa, whose gentle concern had been a constant undercurrent, joined them. They had gathered their own evidence and long suspected that the building's history was marred by a web of lies. Robert's voice, usually soft and measured, rang out with a newfound strength. "It is time for the truth to be told," he declared. "Our loyalty should be to the people and the legacy of this place, not to those who would use it for their own gain." Lisa's eyes shone with compassion as she added, "We have all suffered from the consequences of secrecy. Let us work together to restore the honor of this building, and in doing so, restore trust among us all." The room pulsed with emotion as each person shared in the collective burden of a history built on both triumph and treachery. Michael recalled the many lonely nights spent questioning his purpose, the constant inner battle between duty and conscience. Now, as he looked around at these faces, each marked by their own pain and hope, he knew that his journey toward redemption was only just beginning. In the days that followed, the trio set out to uncover every hidden document, every secret meeting record, and every forgotten correspondence that could explain the building's true origins. Their investigation took them deep into the building's archives, through dusty basements and forgotten rooms where time had left its mark in faded photographs and brittle letters. With each new discovery, the truth emerged in fragments. A story of ambition, sacrifice, and a long-standing pact between families whose names had been deliberately erased from public memory. One letter, in particular, sent shivers down Michael's spine. It was written by one of his ancestors, a visionary who had founded the building as a sanctuary for those who believed in unity despite differences. The letter detailed how the building was meant to be a beacon of hope, a place where people of every background could come together to build a better future. But it also warned of the dangers of greed and betrayal, urging future generations to protect the legacy with honesty and courage. Michael read those words with trembling hands, realizing that his duty was not only to uphold a family name, but also to honor the dreams and sacrifices of those who had come before him. The investigation revealed that the order to eject Jamal had been part of a larger scheme designed by a cabal of influential figures who feared that the truth about the building's origins would undermine their control. Mr. Anderson's role, though cloaked in a veneer of duty, was now exposed as a calculated move to keep the legacy hidden. The evidence was overwhelming, a series of memos, encrypted recordings, and witness testimonies that painted a clear picture of manipulation and deceit. In a final climactic meeting held in the grand hall of the building, a room that had once been used for celebrations and now echoed with the voices of truth, the conspirators were confronted. Michael, standing at the head of a long, polished table, laid out the evidence before a gathering of staff, longtime tenants, and even a few members of the community who had long suspected that something was amiss. His voice, though steady, trembled with emotion as he recounted the history of the building and the betrayal that had marred its legacy. "I stand before you not just as a security guard, but as a guardian of a truth that has been buried for far too long," Michael declared, his eyes meeting those of every person in the room. "Our building was meant to be a symbol of unity, a place where every voice matters. Today, I ask you to join me in reclaiming that legacy. Let us banish the darkness of secrecy and betrayal, and together build a future based on trust and honor." Jamal stepped forward then, his presence commanding yet humble. "I came here searching for my own identity, for a connection to a past I never knew. I have suffered because of lies and injustice, but now I see that together we can overcome the divisions that have kept us apart. Let us heal the wounds of our past and forge a new path, one where the truth lights our way." The room was silent for a long moment as the weight of their words sank in. Faces that had once been filled with suspicion now shone with hope and resolve. Even Mr. Anderson, who had earlier defended the need for secrecy, bowed his head in remorse. "I was wrong," he admitted softly. "I lost sight of the greater good in my attempt to preserve a legacy built on pain. I beg forgiveness, and I pledge to help rebuild the trust that has been shattered." In that charged atmosphere, the conspiracies were laid bare for all to see. The hidden agendas, the bitter betrayals, and the relentless pursuit of power were no match for the united strength of those who had finally chosen to face the truth. The building itself, as if in a final act of grace, seemed to glow with renewed life, its polished surfaces reflecting the light of honesty and the promise of redemption. Over the following weeks, Michael and his newfound allies worked tirelessly to restore the building's honor. They organized meetings, shared the uncovered documents with the public, and established a committee to oversee the preservation of the building's history. Slowly, trust was rebuilt, not only between the staff and the management, but also between people whose lives had been divided by old wounds and hidden resentments. In quiet moments, Michael would often find himself alone in the now bright lobby, where the golden light no longer carried an air of foreboding, but rather a promise of new beginnings. He would pause by the old ledger, its pages no longer a record of secrets, but a testament to the resilience of truth. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it was tempered by the knowledge that every act of dishonesty had led him to this moment of transformation. As the seasons changed, so too did the lives of those who had once been caught in the web of lies. Jamal began to embrace his role as a key figure in the building's future, helping to bridge divides and bring people together. Michael, with each passing day, learned that redemption was not a single act, but a continuous journey, a commitment to live in truth and to honor the sacrifices of those who had come before him. On a quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the newly restored courtyard, Michael found himself standing side by side with Jamal. The two men, once divided by misunderstanding and the weight of misguided duty, now shared a bond forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered by the hope of redemption. Michael's voice, soft yet full of conviction, broke the silence. "I have learned that the true measure of loyalty is not in blind obedience, but in the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the truth is painful. Today, I stand here ready to embrace my heritage and to protect it with everything I have." Jamal nodded, his eyes reflecting both the pain of the past and the promise of a better future. We all have moments where we falter, where our actions cause harm. But it is in those moments that we have the chance to choose a new path, a path of understanding, forgiveness, and unity. As the stars began to emerge in the twilight sky, Michael addressed the gathered crowd in the courtyard, a mix of tenants, staff, and community members whose faces glowed with hope. What we have witnessed here is not just the unveiling of a hidden legacy, but a call to action for every one of us. In a world filled with betrayal and broken promises, we have the power to rebuild trust and create a future defined by truth and compassion. I ask you all, what would you do if faced with betrayal? How would you seek redemption if the past weighed so heavily upon you? His words hung in the cool night air, inviting each person present to reflect on their own experiences, their own moments of doubt and defiance. "Share your thoughts," he continued, "and let us learn from one another, for it is only by facing our collective past that we can forge a future where loyalty is earned through honesty and where every secret is met with the light of truth." In that final, resonant moment, Michael felt the burden of his past begin to lift. The journey had been long and painful, marked by moments of anger, regret, and heartache, but it had also been a journey toward understanding. The building, once a silent monument to hidden deceptions, now pulsed with life, hope, and the promise of renewal. As the evening deepened and people began to mingle and share their stories, Michael looked at Jamal and the others with a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that the road ahead would still hold challenges, that the scars of betrayal might never fully fade. But he also knew that in embracing the truth, in choosing to stand for what was right, they had taken the first steps toward healing a community fractured by secrets. And so, beneath the star-strewn sky, with the building's facade shining softly in the lamplight, Michael made a quiet vow to himself and to all those who had gathered, that he would never again allow fear or blind obedience to dictate his actions. He would honor his heritage, cherish the lessons learned from the past, and work tirelessly to ensure that the future was built on a foundation of truth, compassion, and unity. In the days that followed, as the building's story became a beacon for change, its legacy was no longer one of hidden betrayals, but of courage, the courage to confront painful truths and the determination to rebuild trust among people from all walks of life. And as Michael continued his journey, he often returned to that quiet moment in the courtyard, gazing at the stars and reflecting on the power of redemption. What would you do if you discovered that the system you trusted was built on secrets and lies? How would you find the strength to stand up, even when faced with the burden of your own past? Share your thoughts, for in every question and every answer lies the potential to reshape not just a story, but our very understanding of loyalty and humanity. The night grew deeper, and the echoes of the day's revelations mingled with the soft murmur of voices exchanging hope and possibility. Michael knew that every end was but the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where the courage to seek truth and the willingness to forgive would light the way forward. And in that enduring light, even the darkest secrets could eventually be transformed into the foundations of a better tomorrow. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more meaningful stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.